Hey guys, welcome to another tutorial. So today I'm going to be making a typographic system that can be used in various different formats, and we're going to be animating between these different formats, both landscape and portrait. I've kept the design quite simple just for the sake of the tutorial, but hopefully you guys should have enough room to explore your own style in that. Obviously, this is the super bare bones of a typographic system, and you just build up on that, combining imagery, color, shape, these kind of things to create a more dynamic and variable visual system. But yeah, hopefully you guys learned something new, and I'll see you there. Just before I get into the tutorial, I'd just like to let you guys know that I do have a set of online assets that you guys can download. It's mainly Photoshop mockups, and it's just meant to help elevate your work and just take it to that next level of professionalism. You can go check out my Gumroad in the description. Everything is free and publicly available for you guys to use and take advantage of. So yeah, let's get into the tutorial. And I haven't really seen many tutorials around this idea of working or displaying a typographic system at multiple formats. And I also think it's important to talk about typography and the importance of it. Typography equips you to organize and balance visual elements properly, and it improves your ability to understand space, alignment, and proportion. The more you use typography, the more you learn about it, you'll develop this instinct for balance and flow. And yeah, we're in a digital world, and it's all about how text interacts in these environments and how it flexes and shifts from one format to another. But yeah, this ability, it's not just about being precise, but it's also a way to allow for variability, which enables you to create consistent, precise layouts that underpin good brand continuity. And yeah, it's not just about the text, it's also about the negative space that contributes to this rhythm and flow. But yeah, we'll get into it. So if we move up, you can get an idea of what's going on here. So we zoom in here and turn on our grid. We start with 16 by 9 standard kind of presentation landscape format. So we distribute 16 elements along the width and 9 elements along the height, just taking it from our aspect ratio, which gives us a square grid. We can then subdivide this to create a more detailed grid, which we can then define our point sizes from. So I've just taken our largest point size and just scaled it and made sure that it aligns to the grid, and then just halved again and halved, which gives us one module size, and then half a module size and a quarter module size, which gives us these point sizes, which is essentially a typographic system. And yeah, we can take this grid system and we can subdivide it again and again to create a more detailed grid system, and use these point sizes to create a visually interesting layout. It's something like this. But essentially we have our grid system. So we're using 4K, so our width is 3840. So our largest grid module size is 3840 divided by 16, which is 240. We can then do 240 and divide that again and again and again to create all of our grid sizes or grid modules, which is based off of our point sizes, our point sizes are based off of these, which allows us to do some interesting things. Our point sizes obviously align within these grid sizes, and we can use a 30 pixel baseline grid, which essentially means that we can align our leading, which is the distance between the lines, to the actual grid to create, our leading sizes. But yeah, we can get interesting with this layout and then use that to create, various different types of layouts. So something more stylized like this, or it could be something that's actually more like a presentation where it's a bit more stripped back and informative. And yeah, we could create something quite dynamic like this, and yeah, it can work across multiple formats. But yeah, I thought it was just important to briefly talk about grid systems and where you can define your point sizes from. So yeah, let's get into the tutorial. Okay, so this is what end result should look like. So what I've done is I've just scaled down my layouts to an appropriate size so that they fit within a square composition, so that we can transition from each state, and I've just exported them out to then essentially trace over once they're in After Effects. So if we go into After Effects, this is what we should end with. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make a new project, and we're just going to save this. So I'm going to make a new composition. It's going to be 2160 by 2160. I'm going to make it 30 frames per second, and I'm going to make it 4 seconds long. So I'm just going to drop my templates in, and what I'm also going to do is I'm just going to enable my grids. So if you go view, show grids, snap to grids. So I'm going to drop my initial kind of template in, and you can see that everything aligns to the grid. The grid is what we talked about earlier, and if you want to change that, you can just go into the settings, grid, 120 pixels, 2 subdivisions. Okay, so I'm going to invert this so that I can actually get some contrast. So if I hit T and put this to 30% and then grab the horizontal type tool, I can then type in what I'd like. We have point sizes here, so this is actually larger than the max size of an After Effects type, but we're going to paste it in anyway, and that's going to get us to roughly decent size, and we can just snap that there. You can align that like that, and we can actually put this underneath so we can see both. And we just want to essentially scale this up until it lines up, and we're just going to do this across the entire composition. And yeah, I'm not going to worry too much about the kerning. You know, you can spend a lot of time getting this perfect. I'm just going to kind of go through this relatively quickly. So I'm just copying and pasting the point sizes over for speed, and I'm also copying the text over, and then I can just align that. I'm going to make sure that all the anchor points are in the top left on all of the smaller text, and yeah, essentially I'm going to do this across the entire composition. So I'll cut to once I've completed that. So once we've got our first composition, that's our starting point. So I'm just going to drop in a background. I'm just going to set a keyframe for the size. For everything else, I'm going to set a keyframe for the scale and the position. Okay, so I'm going to move along 1 second in the timeline. I'm going to make sure that the background is white, and I'm just going to drop in the second style frame. So I'm going to make again, I'm going to invert it. I'm going to set the opacity to 30%, and I'm also going to lock that so I can't move it. Then this is 1920 by 1080, and now I just need to reposition everything and just scale it accordingly. So just repeating the process again by just moving all of the content and scaling it correctly. So I'm just going to scale everything to 50%, which should give the correct point sizes for this one. Nice and easy. So that's everything moved correctly to its position, so we can see how this is going to start to animate. And then we can just move along another second, and we can get rid of this by dropping in our third one. Can set this to 540, and then we can just reposition everything again. So that's our third one. So we're just going to unlock this and go to final one. And that's our final composition. So for our last one, we can just essentially paste over what we had before to make it loop like so. And there we have our full sequence. So if we actually just hide this layer, and we can now make this background black. Sorry, if we make our composition background, so settings for our composition, and just turn this black, we can actually just see how this animates. At this moment in time, it's probably a good idea to save, and then we can watch it back, and that's how it's working. So if we select all of our keyframes, then go Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease, go into, if we just select all of our typographic keyframes actually, but if we go into our speed curve settings, if you can't see this, you want to select this one and select all of our points and just scale these into the max. The reason we're scaling everything into the max is because it just ensures that the actual peak of the curve is the same across everything, and selecting them and moving everything at once allows for this. So I'm just going to do the same with my shape layers. For some reason, kind of shape sizes behave slightly differently. So we just want to make sure that you can see that this green layer has not actually been changed. So we need to select this now and do the same treatment. And you can see that the curve or the peak of the curve is exactly the same or completely centered, which gives the great effect or the best effect. So it looks like we've got some slight problems somewhere here with this one, and that's because we haven't treated this one yet. So again, Keyframe Assistant, easy ease, select all of those points and pull them into the center, and this is what we get. And yeah, that's it essentially. You can turn on motion blur to get a nice effect, and you can use the stretch setting if you want to actually slow this down or speed it up. But yeah, this is it. I hope you've learned something new about typography or animation in this one. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you in the future. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and hope you guys can do something interesting with this or new, or just push your skill set. So yeah, cheers for watching, guys. See ya.